Hello everybody, today we're going to be changing the transmission fluid in a 2009 Volvo S60. Have not done that in this car before. Probably should have, depending on who you ask, you do or you don't have to change it. A lot of your transmissions these days are actually sealed units that you don't have a way to put transmission fluid into. But I'm thinking, I want to maintain this vehicle. It has 181,000 miles on it. Never given me any transmission troubles, but as long as I've had it, I've not changed the transmission fluid. I've checked the level and the level looks good in it, but it's dark. Doesn't smell burnt, so a lot of that is probably just from the friction plates getting those particles inside the fluid and extreme age. But it still needs to be replaced, and today I'm going to be doing using the drain plug on the side of the transmission under the car, drain that out, and then refill what comes out. This does not purge everything out of the transmission, but it should get a good bit of clean fluid in there, and if I do this every 6 to 12 months, I think within the next year or so, I'll have a pretty clean transmission fluid. I have the car right now on a level, flat surface, and the engine is cold. It has not been run. There's a couple of different ways, depending on who you ask, how to check the fluid in this. The proper way is really whatever works best for you to make sure that you know. The engine is cold and the car is cold and it's not running right now. And if you take the dipstick out, there's a spot on it where it says, well, I'll show you actually. Let's go over to the car and I'll show you where the dipstick is before we even get started on this thing. Got the hood up. Now if I look in this area here, look down, there's going to be somewhere down there. Where did she go? Oh, there it is, way down there. See that yellow little tube or a stopper? That's your transmission fluid dipstick level. It's actually fairly easy to get your hand into it. If you put your hand in the front here and reach down, you can reach to it. Of course, I don't have a light in there. But one thing you'll want to know if we look at it again there, on the front half, look on the bottom, there's a little tab that sticks out. There's a little metal tab that holds this thing in place, so you want to take one finger and pull that tab forward and use the other finger to kind of pop that up. Let's see if I can prop this light down there. That might work. So I'm going to get my hand in there. I'm going to try to get my hand in there. See, I'm going to take one finger and push on that tab right there. Hopefully you guys can see it. And the other one pulls right up. See? Okay, let's check the fluid. Remember, the engine is cold. And if you take a look at it, there's a spot that says hot, and if it is full cold, that line is going to be right to the top of the T in hot. Now, let's go start the car and check what happens when the car is cold and at idle. Alrighty, it's at idle and cold, and you're going to see it's right about that level, just above that second tick mark there, right about at the top of the cold. So that's where we're going to want to refill this to when it's cold. Let me go shut the engine off. Alright, we've moved on to the next step. Next step is get the car up in the air so that you can get underneath it. And I have it on ramps. These are Rhino ramps. I just got these recently. Had to pay for them. They're not sponsored or anything like that. I wish they were. Man, I did without ramps for so long, and I'll tell you what, now that I've got them, I use them all the time. They are worth the 40 bucks or 45 bucks I paid to get them. But I've got to get the skid plate or air dam, whatever you want to call it, out from under the car. On mine it has 10 millimeter nuts that hold it in place. You guys should already know how to do this from changing the oil. And then there is one transmission bolt that's either a 22 or a 24 millimeter, so I got both sockets sitting over there. And that's it, really. you know, not a whole lot of tools needed. The plug that you pull out of the transmission is magnetic, so you're going to want to clean that off. Either wipe it down real good with a rag or use some brake cleaner on it. And it does have a crush ring. If you don't have a new crush ring, a lot of the time you can just reuse that one. But crush rings you can buy for your oil also. It's the same size, I do believe, and they're super cheap. I got a bag of like 10 of them for like $2. The transmission fluid we're going to be putting back in is the ASIN Type T-4. You can get, I got this from FCP Euro, and this is the OEM fluid that goes in there. Actually, you can get a 4-quart bottle from FCP Euro that has the Volvo label on it, but I believe ASIN makes that fluid, and you can buy the individual quarts, 4 of those, for about half the price. So I went ahead and did that. You're only going to need about 3.5 quarts. You want to check your level, but one good way to find out is I'm borrowing this from my kitchen. It has quart measurements, and when I drain this fluid out into that, it should be somewhere up around that 3.5 quart level. That way I know how much to put back in to start with. The fluid level is pretty darn good right now, so I want to leave it pretty close to exactly where it is. You do not want to overfill these things. The difference between overfull and underfull on that dipstick, between the low and the high mark, is only about this much of the bottle right here. It's very small amount. So make sure you don't overfill it. So now let's go underneath the car and get that pan off, and I'll get ready to drain the fluid. Alrighty, we are under the car. This is the driver's side over here. This is the passenger side. The back of the car is that way, and the front of the car is this way. So that helps you get your orientation. This is the drain plug we're going to have to remove. And it is indeed a 24 millimeter. So let me get my socket prepared here and get it unloosened. Move this out of there a little bit so I can get this started. Really easy to break it loose. I'm going to hold this up a little bit because I don't want this splashing everywhere. There it comes. And this looks like it's in really good shape, this bolt does. And at this point, since you've got some all over your hands anyway, you want to take a good sniff of this. This does not smell burnt in any way. You would smell an actual burnt flavor or a smell. I can smell, it does have that almost like a brake fluid type smell to it. And what that is that wear material from the friction discs inside. Alrighty, we are just letting it drain out a little bit here, so I'm going to be patient. Give it a few minutes here. I am cleaning up my drain plug here. Get it in the light, it looks great. There were no signs of any metal particles or in it, and I got to test this. I don't think this one actually is the magnetic one that they put in a lot of these. No, I don't see any signs unless it's somewhere inside. A lot of these are magnetic. This one does not appear to be. So we're just going to let that drain for a couple of minutes more. I'll check to see if I've got an appropriate size crush washer. Put that on, and we will put this back on and then put the bottom plate back on the car. Alrighty, if you can see right there, it might be a little bit too much light. There we go. The fluid level on this is actually closer to the 3-quart mark. then the 3.5. See that there? And I don't know how accurate those markings are on this bowl. It might not be 100% proper. But that 3, you're supposed to put about 3.5 quarts back in this. So I think that's going to be pretty accurate for this. I'm going to put the 3.5 quarts in, and I think we will be right there. But this is a good way to measure. Actually, you know, now that I look at it, my floor, I think, is slanted still here. If I turn it this way, yeah, see, my level is closer to the 3.5 quart. So my floor isn't 100% perfect. It goes toward the drain under the car there. So be aware of that when you're doing this. So we're right at the 3.5 quart mark though, so that's what I'm going to put back in there. I've got my funnel in. You do need a long funnel to get down in there. Make sure it is in good. Might need to look down the tube of the funnel. Clean your funnel out. Make sure there's no debris or anything or spiders living in there. And then go ahead and put your transmission fluid in. And actually, I kind of decided to cheat a little bit. I'm using a double funnel. So this funnel can get it down into that funnel. That way, as I'm getting this bottle here over there, I don't end up pouring it all over those belts and stuff. So I like that idea a little bit better. I'm going to hold my hand down on the bottom part of the bottom funnel to make sure I can feel for anything coming out of that funnel down there, to make sure I've got the funnel in the dipstick tube properly. And I'm going to pour very slowly and very carefully. Alrighty, and there you have it. I have my transmission fluid back in the car. It's still up on the ramps right now. I've got my dipstick back in the car. Let's go ahead and close the hood. And I'm going to back it up off the ramps, drive it around the block just enough to get it through all the gears, bring it back to the exact same flat spot, and make sure that that cold reading is accurate. And then it is a really good idea to go out and get the engine nice and warmed up, at least a half an hour of good spirited driving, and check the hot level as well. Now, one thing that those of you might have noticed is, if you are familiar with these Volvos, is I probably put less in there than what it would have been if it was on a lift or a flat surface. The transmission drain plug is toward the front half of the transmission, and if you've got the car lifted up on those ramps, a little bit of that fluid is going to be drained to the back of the pan, so it's not going to come out. If it were on a lift, I would have probably got out about 1/4 of a quart more. The normal refill for this on a flat surface or a lift, I think, is somewhere around the 3.8 quart mark, 3.75 to 3.8. If you've got it on ramps, apparently it's going to be a little bit less. But the nice thing is that means I've got a half a bottle left. I only need to get 3 more for my next fluid change. And it saves me a couple of bucks, so not so bad. So I'm going to go take her around the block and make sure everything looks good, and I will see you guys later.